Hello, everyone, and welcome to October's Book Nook. My name is Jordan H. Bartlett, author of Contest of Queens, Queen's Catacombs, and Queendom Come, which comes out March 2025. And I am joined once again. I have been counting down the days to be joined once again with author Dana Clare. Welcome, Dana.
Oh, thanks for having me. I've been counting down the days as well. I miss you. This is the first time I've seen you in forever.
Well, exactly. I think last time we chatted, I was in Scotland and you were on the East
Yeah.
Coast, and now you're West Coast, and I'm in West Coast too. So we're finally in the same kind of time zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Dana Clare, if you haven't seen our previous chats, we've done a couple. So we've done Wayward Monsters and Loving the Hunter for Hunterland. And we also did Who Run the World, a world building chat with Amna Qureshi and Brandy June. So I'll put links to those below. But Dana, you have quite a repertoire of your own because you are the author of The Reclaimed Kingdom, the Bloodlight Trilogy, the Olympian Wars Trilogy,
Yep.
the Sideliners trilogy?
It is. I'm desperate to get book two out. I know it's everybody's like favorite. It's contemporary, so I feel like it's easier for people to read and it hits like both sides of my audience. People are dying for that second book, and there is a third one, but it's only been outlined. So nobody kill me. It'll come out soon.
And waiting is what makes things taste sweeter. So we'll just have to wait.
Yes, that is very
But
true.
today, as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about Hunterlore, the sequel to Hunterland, and it's all about monsters, high school, romance, and our theme of the day is going to be love and monsters,
Ooh, I
because
love
why
that.
not?
Yes. Who doesn't
So,
love a good
Dana,
romance?
who doesn't love a monster romance?
I'm telling you.
So, Dana, could you start us off by just telling us a bit more about yourself?
Sure. So, well, I'm an author. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I don't even know, COVID hit. And like many of us, I was like, I've always wanted to write. So I started writing, and that was the Connection was the first book that I put out. I did it terribly. I self-published. I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, everyone talks about their journey in the beginning, and we all never know what we're doing, right? Right from the start. So and then I was like, okay, I'm going to research. I'm going to learn everything I can possibly learn about this industry. And then that's when I got picked up by Camcat Books. And that was the start of the Hunterland series.
Wonderful. And catch us up to speed with the series. We're going to be talking about the
Yeah.
sequel. So if you're wary of spoilers, you should have read the book first. But where are we when the Hunter lore starts?
So in the first book, it was really about taking a couple teenagers who live in this monster world, and then a couple teenagers who knew it didn't even know it existed, and then watching their worlds come together. And I thought that was like really fun. You get to see both perspectives. It's told in three people point of view. So you have the main protagonist, which is Liam, and then you have the main female protagonist, the main male protagonist, Liam, and then the main female, which is Olivia. But Olivia's sister actually gets a couple of her own chapters to, it's funny. I kind of like went back and forth about that for a while. Like, should I do it? Should I not do it? And I don't know if you've ever read the Zodiac Academy. Have you ever read that?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think that was actually what changed my mind to do it. And I had a really strong editor friend that was like, don't do it. You'll never get picked up. But it was actually one of the most loved and highly rated parts of the book for book one and book two in all my reviews. So that was really telling and validating too. So thanks everybody. So that was the first one, was really about their worlds coming together and learning that monsters exist and that there's magic out there and magical capabilities that these two sisters have that they didn't even know that they possessed. So that was really what the first book was. The second book is now like, okay, we know this world exists. We've got these powers, and it's the Hunter family, and now this new family coming together and fighting the world of monsters. But there's a lot of play on relationships in the second book, and that was very pivotal for me too. I think that was really what I was looking most forward to, is like we had that beginning book where like, oh, this is exciting, this is fun, we've got a little romance in there. And then the second book was all about all the different relationships and how they started to evolve now that their worlds became one, essentially.
Oh, I love that. And I am glad also that you had Olivia's sister have her chapters because in the sequel as well, she's such an important perspective where Liam is like, kill all the hunters. Olivia's like, I don't even know if I want this life, but Pepper?
Yeah,
I,
Pepper.
I always think Poppet because of what
Oh, because
Doc
of
calls
Doc.
her, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Pepper is this beautiful kind of middle ground where she does see both sides of the coin and she is trying to find her place in both worlds in a very different way to how Olivia is navigating it, where I feel like with Olivia, she is so focused on her relationship with Liam. And
Mhm.
that's beautiful and we love to see it, but it is nice to have that third party perspective of, oh, she sees the humanity of these monsters.
She does, and she empathizes and sympathizes with them. And I think that that's the relationship part of it that's really interesting because Liam sees it black and white,
Mhm.
right? He's like, no, there's a right and there's a wrong. And Pepper doesn't see the monsters as being wrong or bad or evil. There is no black and white to her. There's good monsters, good people, bad people. And I think that she plays a really, pivotal role in the series and where I'd like the series to go. And part of the reason that she has her own POV is so that she can leave the main two characters and take us with her if that, happens in some of the other books. And that's the plan is to have her do that and explore outside of maybe the world that they're currently in. So that was really something I saw in the beginning and was hoping that if it evolved into the 5 book series, that we were able to go with her along her journey too.
Wonderful. Yeah. Yeah. And she does have such a lovely voice too. So it would be wonderful to hear more of it down the line.
Yeah.
And so in the first book, we have a lot of vampires and a little bit of ghosties, but in this book, it really focuses on the werewolves.
Yeah.
What went into some of the decisions you made on werewolf lore, and what considerations did you have to make it all make sense in your world?
Yeah. So one of the reasons we went to werewolves right away was that before the writer strike happened and the actor strike happened, I was teaching a yoga class and a writer was in the classroom. She's represented by CAA, which is Creative Artist Agency, and she asked to get a copy of Hunterland. So when she got the copy, she asked if they could pick it up and we could option it for TV. So anyway, fast forward during all of my kind of conversing with her and some of the other writers, we got a writer from Roslyn on our team. I don't know, did you ever see the show Roslyn?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that was really cool. We got a writer from that TV series and we got another writer. So during all this conversation, one of the emphasis was on the relationship and role of Liam's mother, who this is the spoiler alert, people, who was turned into a monster during one of their monster hunts and got bitten by a werewolf. So I was gonna save the werewolf for the third or the fourth book and kind of go into a different monster. But once I started talking with them and we were talking about developing the show and how we'd like to see the books go, because it was really important to the screenwriters and myself that if this got picked up, that people could pick up the books and be like, oh, this is follows this. So they're actually the reason why I kind of went in that direction sooner than later. But of course, I was always going to go into that direction. And I had this like, and you asked the question, so full circle, bringing it back. What was different with this lore is that to turn back after a full moon, you have to eat a human heart. And I think since I wrote both books, that's the one thing that people have like, I love that different part of the lore. Because we've all read a, werewolf book and a vampire book, and Twilight, the vampires sparkle like diamonds, everybody's got their thing, but it's got to be a thing that people are like, I believe you.
Hmm.
And that feels organic and real. So, I mean, of course, it's not real, I don't think, but it's got to feel that way to the reader. And I just thought that that's such a trying thing. Like you have no control. Think about this. Like you have absolutely no control. You turn into a werewolf, and then the only way is to do something that's inhumane. How
Hmm.
can you be good? And that was kind of the whole point is like, could werewolves be good? And I won't spoil this. I don't know, read book 2 and you'll find out. But that was really what I wanted the audience to struggle with. Well, they've got to kill to be able to turn back into their human form, or they're going to go nuts in their animalistic form. So that was really the lore that I was so drawn to. And I thought that, I don't know, I just thought that that was the coolest thing and I'd have a lot of fun playing with it.
Yeah, and it also I feel like it also evens the morality scale because with vampires, we know, I mean, vampires, they maybe are sexy, but they have to drink human blood. So they're causing
Right.
harm to sustain themselves. So, monster, easy to pinpoint that. But when you think of the werewolf kind of lore, the only thing that really comes to my mind is silver bullets kill them. They get a little bit angry and rabid and turn into the werewolf on the full moon, but lock yourself in a room that locks on the outside for that night and you're fine. So there is less of the monster element to werewolves, and then you bring in eat a human heart and it's like, oh my gosh, because if you get turned, I've thought a lot about this because I just loved it. If you get
Yeah.
turned and you have to be a human again, you have to, like you say, do something inhumane. How do you justify that? But you're not just gonna off yourself. You have to keep living. That's how life
Right.
works.
And that's the survival of the fittest mentality. Or so is there a way around that? Is there a way that, somebody, so one of the reasons why Liam and Jacqueline's mother turning into a werewolf I thought was so interesting and I was excited to write about was the fact that her whole life, her parents were monster hunters. She was a monster hunter. She married a monster hunter. She had two monster hunter children. Like, talk about bloodline, right? Tradition. She knows all of this. So now she's going to have to live with this or not, just like you said.
Mhm.
Does she live with it? Does she not live with it? And, she was so, and you find this out in book two, but she wasn't going to live with it, but she was so damaged and couldn't even kill herself because she was so ripped apart by shreds being bitten by these werewolves that she was saved by a werewolf. And that healing journey led her to her own journey. And then that, you find out in that book. And I thought that was really cool too.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I,
it,
I cried at the end of the book and I wrote it. Like I knew what was going to happen. I still cried. It's like,
yeah. Yeah. And it's, again, that's why, and coming back to Pepper, that's why her perspective is so key to have, or else it would be very easy to say, well, she's no longer a human. She's a monster.
right.
We're going to feel good about her end.
Yeah.
Yeah. And jumping into our romantic relationships for a little bit here, Livia and Liam are very much the star-crossed lovers in this book. I
Yeah.
loved all of the high school angst that I wished I could play out, but could only do in my mind when I was in high school because my high school wasn't, in Hunterland where there was death at death on the line. So they put up walls, they mark one another as forbidden and unwanted distractions and dangerous to love. How do you balance all of these feelings and that inner turmoil, especially jumping between their two points of view when writing this kind of romance pairing?
Well, I think both of them didn't want to be with each other for different reasons. So that made it really easy, right? Like you're in one perspective, and Liam's like, well, if I'm going to eventually have to, like, my life is Monster Hunter. He wasn't in the beginning of book two acknowledging that she was part of the world, right? Like, he was like, I'm going to leave soon. Like, she's not really part of this world because, it just started. So, like, feels like a very human thing to feel. And he was like, it's not fair, or like, I don't want to get hurt. Like, whether he was admitting any of this or not, those are the feelings that as the reader, you're like, okay, well, this is why he's putting up walls. I think she was putting up walls, and like you actually nailed it earlier, where she's like, I don't even know if I want this world. Like, this is his world. I don't know if I'm cut out for this. I don't even know if my powers are real. I don't even know. Like, there's so much uncertainty and like questions, and like, I can't do what everybody else can do. And then that doesn't feel good, You never, it's like, in gym class and like everybody's hitting the ball really far. And you're like, I can't hit the ball that far. Like, I'm just trying to think where you see everyone around you handling something different and better than you. And then the person you like the most is so much more advanced than you. And that feels really insecure. So their insecurities were very different. So that made
Mhm.
it really easy to write what they were. But then they started to come together, that was also easy too, because they both softened in different ways. And I
Yeah.
think that was really fun to watch Liam soften and knowing that she is part of this world, and Olivia harden, knowing that she is part of this world and that their relationship can survive it. So I thought that was really neat too. And then, of course, there's this pseudo love triangle with the hookup girl that comes back into it. But I don't know, it was that was easy because of their emotional states being so vast.
Hmm. Yeah, and the back and forth and I mean, you've got the pseudo hookup girl coming like love triangle, but you've also kind of got a love triangle with Olivia as well, where she makes a new friend and Liam's like, well, she deserves to have, I think he even says she deserves to have a normal friend because our life is so abnormal. But then there's kind of a lot there, no
And now
spoilers.
he's not so normal.
Yeah. Nothing's ever normal in Hunterland.
Nope. No, but I think that that was fun too. And that was actually kind of the duality of it was like
Hmm.
to show that difference, which I thought was like really obvious. And a lot of people wrote like, oh, this is so, obviously like, he's got an ex and now she's got a love interest. And I'm like, well, not really. I don't, it's not, wasn't a love interest. I think what people might have forgotten was she just lost her best friend.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of loss and in book one, and she just put her mother's spirit to rest. And like, she's in the like feeling these insecure thoughts about this guy in a whole new world. Like there's all this stuff. People tend to cling to things when there's all this stuff. So there's this new person who's new and she could feel useful and
Hmm.
like making him part of the, world that is the normal part of her life. And feeling useful and feeling valued sometimes masks some other feelings that we have, So I think that was really kind of fun to write too. And then his whole life and his experience and where he was coming from, why he was actually there was also really fun to write too. So I felt like there was a lot going on in book two. Like I look back and I'm like, that was a lot of stuff uncovered.
But it was good. And I think too, with Olivia, she's also grieving the loss of a life she expected to have and a relationship with her sister she expected to have. And yeah, I mean, I would cling to any normal looking shred in that world that shows up easily. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think most teenagers do.
Hmm.
They go through something traumatic or they lose a loved one. And like sometimes that's what leads to poor behavior. And not necessarily in this case did that happen, but that's kind of where I was going with the themes of it too, because they are in high school. So there's a lot to unload it for high school students anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. And you've just got the feelings are cranked to the nines. And so we've mentioned Olivia's new friend. We've mentioned the incoming of an old flame for Liam. There are a lot of new side characters in the sequel because now that we're in Hunterland, we get the Hunter world kind of expanding. Who was your favorite side character to introduce us to and why?
Nikki. I
Oh, I was hoping
love
you'd talk about her.
I loved her the second I thought about her. I loved bringing the twins in. So originally I had brought the twins in to like fill the void of losing Jessica in book one, right? So that was like my original thought process there. But then as I started to write it, like really evolved. And I realized that I actually brought them in to balance, Liam and Olivia. And I thought what was nice about Nikki is she really wasn't a threat to Olivia with Liam. She just, but no one could really see that, right? So no one could really see that because it doesn't look like that necessarily from the outside in. She's someone Liam used to hook up with. She's part of his world, part of his history. But she ends up becoming more of a, not romantic by any means, but more of a transitional person in Olivia's life than Liam's life. And that's kind of where I really loved this. Like they end up teaming up together. There's just this like immediate, not immediate, I'm sorry, drawn out friendship that develops by the end of it that I really want to explore in the other books because I like love their compatibility as friends. I just think that that's so fun. And I like how she kind of brings Liam and Olivia together too in some ways and or like she's the when they're getting too serious, she's the one that makes the joke in it. Like there's just something about the way that she interacts with all of the characters that I find really fun. Even her uncle.
And I love with Nikki too because she, like you say, she comes out of the gate and it's like she is flirty, she is sexy, she is so much better at combat than Olivia is. I think the first scene is her sparring with Liam and just
Yeah.
there's so much tension in the like between everybody. And then you get these moments where she's alone with Liam and you see her full, you kind of see her walls go down because they have such a history. And it's like, no, she's zero threat. Like she has
Hero.
no interest in this boy. But she has also a like a persona to live up to in a lot of ways. So she has to kind of play a role, it felt like, when she's with
Mhm.
Olivia and Liam. So it's such a nuanced character. And for a
Yeah.
side character too, she was very well done.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, she was really fun to play with.
And what is something in Hunter lore that you really geek out about that you've included?
So, and you and I talk about this offline, so this will be kind of a good one. So, I don't know if you guys know that Jordan and myself love yoga. And we both, you are a teacher too, but I know you went through teacher training, right?
Yeah, yoga instructor.
Yoga instructor, I'm a yoga instructor. And before yoga, I wasn't really into crystals or like any of that vibe stuff. Well, when I was writing book one, I threaded in crystals and all different types of like energy stones. And I really into Olivia's like just her life before she even knew that the worlds existed. And I do really geek out and I don't go heavy on it because I don't want it to be too obvious, but I geek out on all the small little places that I put in like quartz or crystals or stones, what the stones mean, because I'm fascinated by that. I probably don't know a lot compared to other people who are into this, but I do find my best friend, who's also a yoga teacher, lines her room with stones. And I sleep on her floor. Guys, this is a true story. I sleep on her floor when I sleep over. We still have sleepovers. And it's a cement floor. And I have a better night's sleep on that cement floor than I do anywhere else. And I swear to God, it's the crystals. I really think they're grounding crystals. There's something to be said about it. So I do geek out about this a little bit, but behind closed doors. So that's yeah, I guess that's something that I can tell you. That's not a spoiler alert and kind of cool.
And kind of cool. And it is so cool that you mentioned that too, because I know reading it, I was like, oh, I love how you've actually given the stones power. Like they actually do things. Not saying that you don't have a wonderful sleep because there's stones in the room, but I
I believe
feel,
that that is true.
yes, yeah. But I feel like seeing the little kind of I don't know, baseball card of abilities that a stone has come to life in a very tangible way in your world was such a lovely little like step further into the magic of from the magic of our world into the magic of your world. It was very cool. Like I love there was um a protection stone that was inhibiting like a telepathic message at one point. Don't
For
want to do
Pepper.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is so cool because it's like, oh shoot, I put that stone in your pocket.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it. Like I was
Yeah.
just protecting you. And it's like, that's so crazy and cool. Actually, and this is really neat. I'm not spoiling anything because the show hasn't been picked up, but even if it was, I still think this is like a really neat thing. So because of the stones, the writers for the pilot, they came up with something mind-blowing. And I'm threading it into book three because I was so blown away with how they full circle these stones, how it started, how she got her first stone, which I kind of hint to in book one, how she got her first stone. She thinks it's her grandmother, but it wasn't. I never finished that thought because I was like, I'll finish it at some point. Well, they finished it. And wait, I mean, it's going to be in book three, but wait till you find out who actually gave her the stone. It's wild.
Oh, I'm so excited. And I'm so excited for you and so happy for you because
Thank
it
you.
is so wonderful. The idea that this book and this series is going to be on the screen as well is
Better way.
fantastic. Yeah.
Yes. And one more thing before we go. Do you know who Daniel Tosh is from Tosh 2.0 on Comedy Central? Do you ever remember that show?
Oh, Tash 2.0, you say?
I say. So Daniel Tosh has his own podcast, and his producer knows me from yoga actually, and thought that my story was really interesting. You know, Hollywood yoga teacher turned author turned entrepreneur, and they had me on their show, and it'll be airing on November 5th.
Oh, remember the 5th of November.
Yep.
Very
So
exciting.
podcast, the Daniel Tosh podcast, and the Daniel Tosh YouTube show.
Wonderful. And so if we were to keep up to date with all of your upcoming projects, any podcast episodes, any TV show episodes coming up, how do we do that?
Oh gosh, anything that says author Dana Claire, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, we have got a website, danaclairebooks.com. Those are the great ways to keep up with me. So I'm not super active on anything but Instagram and TikTok. So if you do shoot me something on Facebook or somewhere else, I probably won't answer because I'm getting old, people. I can only handle two social media accounts and magically respond to those on time. So those are the ones that I'm on. Instagram's my favorite. So that's where you can find me.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm the same. There's too many. And then you also have to write books on top of it. It's a
Oh
lot.
dear. And a day job.
Mm.
Oh,
Yeah, crazy. Well, thank
crazy.
you so much. This has been
Thank
such a
you.
treat. I
Oh,
love chatting books with you.
my pleasure. Thanks for having me. It was an honor.
And so, thank you to the listeners or the viewers for joining our chat. If you would like to rate and follow, like, and subscribe, depending on whether you're on YouTube or Spotify, it really helps my little show out. If you enjoyed this video, please pass it along to like-minded friends. And if you would like to hear more or see more, make sure you subscribe because I release a new episode once a month, but no set date. So then you don't miss anything. However you found your way here, I hope you are well and living magically.